didn't see the bar come up. Hold on.
I pressed it. Hold on.
There you go. It just
you go.
started.
It's on? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so it's 10:02, and I'll call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is the minutes of the June 30th, 2021 meeting. Does anybody have any changes or amendments?
No.
If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
That second was Becky. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? All right. Motion passes. The first community up on our agenda is Brooklyn. Do we have somebody from Brooklyn here?
We do this
We have
first
three
selectman's
people.
with us.
We have three people. First Selectman Rick Ives, our Finance Director Stephanie Levin, and our Superintendent of Schools Patty Buell. Good morning.
Good morning. Why don't you bring us, we received your update, but why don't you give us a little brief update?
Okay, this is Stephanie Levin, Finance Director. So our fiscal year 21, we've unofficially closed fiscal year 21 on the town side. We have a Board of Finance meeting tonight where we will be bringing our proposed transfers to balance our lines to a Board of Finance meeting tonight. On the school side, we are still waiting for some of the fiscal year 21 expenditures to be finished out. I know when I sent the update last week, we were at about 256,000 outstanding. We're at about 227,000 outstanding as of today. A large majority is for transportation. We're still negotiating with EastCon, disputing what they say that we owe them. So we are working on that right now and hope to be closed out on school side by September 30th. On revenues, we're also complete in taking in our fiscal year 21 revenues, and we were successful in collecting enough revenue to not use our general funds or our reserve, sorry about that, to balance. So that's great. So that's for fiscal year 21. For fiscal year 22, we held our town meeting on June 28th, and we passed the budget. Our tax collection we are a quarterly tax paying town. So for our first quarter, our taxes were strong. We brought in over $5 million in property tax alone. And we estimate about a little over 16 million in collection for the entire year. We expect that our next round of revenue that will be coming in September will be for our recreation line. We ran a summer camp this year, and with the help from the school's ARP funds, as we were saying that was a social program to bring students back into the school district and get them back up socially, hopefully. We're using some ARP money to pay for those expenditures that incurred from the recreation summer camp. So we're working on processing that to invoice the school for that. Another thing to bring your attention to is we had a Putnam Technology Park that we were a part of for a few years, where we made payments to them, and then with the hope that we would receive revenue from rent that was collected. That technology park is not really doing what it's supposed to do, and Putnam proposed that they would pause the agreement and return to us the money that we had sent as an investment. And so we took that revenue in July when we agreed to pause that agreement. So that is a new revenue line for fiscal year 22 right now. Trying to think what other big things we had for that. And I think that's most of what fiscal year 22 was so far. As far as our corrective action plan for fiscal year 20, the last outstanding thing was discussion about interfund and liability accounts, which we've been reviewing. We have one bank account that we still want to separate out the first selectman and I have been actually talking about it quite a bit, is the recreation activity funds. Those are currently still pooled with our general fund, and we want to pull those out, but there's some questions about the donations that are received to the recreation activity and whether those should remain with recreation or if they are supposed to go to the town of Brooklyn at the end of its fiscal year if they're not spent. So there's been just some discussion between the first selectman and myself around that. We're hoping that that will get resolved within the next month or so, but this is my last week in Brooklyn, so that will go under the next finance director. And that brings me to my next topic, is the update on our finance director. And we did an exhaustive search. We followed through with the recommendations that the MFAC had made to us at our last meeting about posting more on the GFOA page for Connecticut, posting on CCM, and reaching out to Rhode Island since they're in close proximity to me. So we did do that. I believe in total we had 4 total candidates, 2 of who dropped out, another external, and then 1 internal, which then ended up being 2 internal candidates. We interviewed 3, one of the externals and 2 of the internals, and an offer was made and accepted by the internal candidate, who is someone who's been in my office and under me for the last 17 months. And I think we'll be able to step into this role. There'll be some learning that needs to be done, but she's lived through some of the rougher years with getting Brooklyn back on track, and she knows my style and how I've worked with the department and with the town and school. So I think she'll be able to continue the work that I've been doing. And then lastly, under other fiscal related matters, one of the recommendations that the MFAC made to us was that the Board of Finance really needed to finalize and work on and then finalize a fund balance policy, and they will be reviewing that tonight at the Board Finance meeting, the first proposed.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
think that's my brief, quick update.
All right, thank you. So let me start. This is Kate Bush. Let me start with a couple questions. Do you expect that the fiscal 21 audit will be able to be completed on time?
That is a great question. I would like to say yes. They hesitated I wanted them to come in. We've already started the audit. We did the preliminary. That was done back in June. I requested that we get dates in September or October for the meat of the audit to be done, so that we would have it done by December 31st. The auditors pushed back and said, oh, well, you don't have a finance director yet, and we want them to have time to get up to speed. So we're really recommending November. At the time that I scheduled, and I said, okay, early November, we did not have a director at that time. I have had a conversation with the new director and said, maybe reach out to them. She's worked with them because she's been in my office for the last 2 years. So she was going to reach out to them next week and see if she could make it earlier and put it into October.
Okay.
I don't know how successful she's going to be at this point in the game of getting an October date.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping she can be successful. But I know that is one of her first things that she wants to do is reschedule when that is, so that there's more time.
Okay. So you said your first quarter of tax collection has been strong. How does that compare to prior years, that 33%?
We're right in track. It continues to amaze me that this whole period that we're going through, we expected to have a slowdown in tax collections. We have not seen that at all. That's
good. You also, in your budget, this report on the 22 budget, you say that there will be an adjustment made in the roads and bridges accounts due to anticipated funding coming from Town Aid Road and low SIP. What happened there?
So there was a project that was done in July that we charged against our roads and bridges, but we are requesting tar. We haven't gotten our tar funds yet, and the project was already done. So once those funds come in, tar and LoSiP come in, then we'll move that expenditure to the tar and, some of the projects to the tar and LoSiP, and that account won't be.
Okay,
as
so you have that
expended
as a separate fund?
Yes, yep.
Okay, all right. But there's not an issue with how much you were anticipating getting.
No,
No.
not at all.
All righty. And I just, the other thing I think you're talking about your rec activities fund, that you treat that as a separate fund.
Yes,
And it sounds like you're
our-
mingling revenue from the activities with donations.
Well, this was right. So this was, as we were talking about what the recreation activity accounts are intended for, there was some discussion between the first selectman and myself, because past practice on the recreation accounts has been, they've taken in revenue to hold special programs like a running club or a boot camp or
Red Sox
whatnot,
trip.
Red Sox trips or stuff like that. In the past, they have received donations to help offset some of the costs of those special programs, but it appears that the money hasn't always been exhausted from those donations to offset those. So the donations just end up rolling over within the recreation activity account. Since I've been here, we haven't really had many donations. We've had some scholarship type stuff that has offset expenditures. But in talking about this account, the question came up was, well, should those donations were made to the town of Brooklyn for recreation activities, but they weren't just made just to the recreation activities. Yeah. So should that money come out of recreation if it's not spent at the end of the year and go to the general fund?
One of the problems that we've always had is the activity account is supposedly you take money in and you pay the exact money out to the provider. It's the donations, however, that make you never have a zero balance. So the question is, should they be there, first of all? And we're trying to figure out about the whole idea of an activity account that goes from year to year. Do the donations have that right as well?
Yeah.
So right now we're in the middle of trying to come up with a policy.
Yes, I would strongly suggest you have a policy. You might want to look at something like letting the donors know that if the item for which they donated, if it's fully funded before you expend all their donations, that you will put this money to other uses. I think
that
come up with a policy. I don't know, Mike or Tony, if your communities have any kind of policy. We now tell donors, if you gave us money for, putting a bench in a park and it costs less than what you gave us, that the money might be used for other like purposes. And I don't know if our other finance directors on the board have any comments on that.
We are, in Woodbridge, we have the exact same policy. We let the donors know, not just recreation, but other areas of town, that if there's a donation and it's not spent, it'll be spent on something similar.
This is Stephanie in Brooklyn. Do you do you leave that money in like a recreation type fund, or do you pull it out as like a special donation fund?
We keep our donations. We keep our donations separate. They're in trust funds. We actually have one big donation fund, but it's separate from the activities.
Right, and from the general fund.
And from the general fund, yes.
Okay.
But it's a trust fund, so it can.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me go through. John, do you have any questions?
Oops. No, but I have a couple of comments. First, being a big fan of getting reports done and audits completed, I'm not quite so concerned as when the auditors will deign to come in, but appreciate the fact that the town feels comfortable that they will be prepared and set and closed by the earliest date they can be there. Second, every time your town has come to this committee, you've always been grinding out progress. Kate always has a very long list of specific, very good questions. And I'm not sure, I'm aware of any time anybody from your town ever shrugged their shoulders and said, gee, we don't know. We don't have an idea and we can't address that. So that's just a compliment.
Thank you.
Mike?
Just a follow-up question in regards to the closeout on the Board of Ed side. I think a date was referenced of September 30th, but I believe the state reporting is August 31st. The report name escapes me. I think it might be an EFS or something to that effect. But
Yep.
Is the Board of Ed positioned to close out by August 31st?
Yeah, so on the EFS, which I'm working on right now and trying to get done before I leave on Friday, is they take into account the current expenditures plus anything that's encumbered as of June 30th. So those encumbrances are included in what we report to them. And then if there's any adjustment to what actually got spent out of that encumbrance, that gets adjusted with the auditors. They'll come in, we'll uncertify the EFS, make the corrections, and then recertify it before December 31st, which is the state's cutoff for the EFS to be officially certified.
Okay, great. I get it. Okay.
Kim?
Yes. I guess I want to piggyback off the audit again one more time. Stephanie, if you feel that the town is prepared and it's the possibility that the auditor is not prepared and they can't get you in their book of business and they're trying to push you to a later date, I would definitely suggest that and making them aware that your town is under MFAC and that it is, quite helpful that they would be providing, if the town is ready, that your auditors help provide you to get us the information that you need to in a timely manner, especially as a town that's under oversight.
Yeah, and they do know that we report to you every other month. They're aware of it. I've asked them questions when I've needed to, based on things that we've discussed in these meetings. Mm-hmm. So I will make sure that the next finance director stresses that with them when she reaches out to them to see if we can get in a little earlier.
Perfect. One other item, Stephanie, or for selectmen, is there a possibility that, and I don't know, with you moving on to another job, that there will be still proper transition, as you said, that the new person, does have a learning curve as well. But I will say Brooklyn has done a good job from when we started 2 years ago to where we're at today. And with the momentum, and Stephanie, you have a lot to do with that, and I think that it would be quite helpful, even if it's a phone call away, to make sure that your successor is able to keep things moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so I've had multiple conversations with the new person. I let her know, of course, she can call, text, email me, whatever she needs to do. I also suggested to her earlier this week that we set up a Zoom meeting every 2 weeks. Fabulous. So that her and I can meet and discuss about anything that's come up that she has questions about. So that is already on the calendar for September 3rd for us to do that. And we'll just continue that as long as she needs it.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Oh, and she's also, just to continue that a little bit, I know the reason why we had asked the superintendent to come on today was to talk about this, or maybe expand on this, is there is a retired school business manager who is opening up a consulting for new business managers. And so I know Brooklyn is going to contract with her so that she can come and help the new finance director on the school side. And I have also recommended to the new finance director that she look into the CCMO on CCM's website to get some more knowledge about the town side. And I recommended that she continue her weekly meetings, which I already have with both First Selectman Ives and Superintendent Buell, that those continue.
That's great
And
news.
I don't know if Superintendent Buell wants to expand on the CASBO consulting thing.
Oh, if I can ask one quick question, since your replacement is an internal hire, can I assume, since that person worked with you, that that person's position is not going to be empty?
It is not. It has been posted, and we believe that we have another internal candidate who will fill it.
This is Patty Buell, superintendent. I don't know if you want more explanation or not, but I have a contract we're going to work out some details to see what the replacement needs. I would just emphasize that the internal candidate has been working with Stephanie, and she, as Stephanie said, she was here before Stephanie got here, and we've worked very closely together. And we do have a protocol manual that we're using, and that has been developed, and we will continue to use that as she transitions in and as we transition in a new finance assistant.
Thank you.
First Selectman Ives, when we chose this candidate, it was based on we're very happy with the progress that Stephanie brought to us. Brought a series of policies and procedures and a 3-person finance department that works very cohesively. When we interviewed both internal and external candidates, we believed that it was important to pick internally to maintain what we have. We don't want a new system right now. We've worked hard to come up with what we have, and it's time to make it work and grow. So it was important to do it this way.
Thank you. Stephanie, when you're talking about the education or training opportunities for your replacement, I would also suggest looking into the National GFOA's Certified Public Finance Officer program. It's a great way to get a wide breadth of knowledge. Tony, do you have anything?
No, I think with all the questions and the thorough summary, I think I'm pretty much all set. I guess just one, the discussions with EastCon, is there an anticipated budgetary impact to that, or do you feel like you can cover any outcome that will happen there?
We can definitely cover. We have we have an encumbrance in that transportation line that we believe will more than cover it. That will probably be the adjustment to the EFS that will end up happening, because we won't spend what's encumbered right now, I don't believe. It's just a matter of trying to get them to come to a number, a final number that we agree with.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Becky?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, Glenn?
I was just going to echo John's compliments with regards to the progress that's been made, and with Kimberly bringing up the transition. I think there's all good reason to be encouraged with the efforts being made with transitioning with the finance director, as well as, and I was glad somebody brought this up, filling the spot, seeing it was coming from an internal position. So it seems like everything's, you're giving the tools for success and giving it a chance.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Last call. Anything else for Brooklyn? If not, thank you very much for the reports, and keep up the good work.
And
Thank you
farewell,
so much.
Stephanie.
Yes, good luck, Stephanie.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can always come back, if you missed us.
I may just join just for the fun of it.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Next on our agenda, we have Derby. Who do we have with us from Derby today?
I know that I saw the mayor was here earlier. Yes, I see the mayor is here.
Hello.
Excuse
Hi.
me, Kate. Kate, it's Glenn. I just need to point out that Derby is a bond counsel client.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Okay.
We have Mayor Zekin, Chief of Staff Andrew Baklick, and also our new Finance Director Agata Hedisimovic as well.
Okay. And just, is it, I don't know who's managing the video. It seems that the superintendent from Brooklyn is frozen on my screen. I don't know, like maybe she left and, okay. If the mayor or Agata, which one of you would like to give us a brief update?
So I would like to start from a prior audit. We completed the audit in July. Everything looks better than we expected, and I think we, at this point, at a 10% level of fund reserve fund balance. We have, I think, achieved certain confidence right now that we can move on to the next year with, challenge of putting more money into fund balance. And I think we completed almost 2021 with this goal. I reviewed revenues and expenditures, and I was gladly put them together and see how we're doing as far as year end 2021. And I still, I'm almost closing the books. I'm waiting for more firm numbers from Board of Ed. Unfortunately, they had shortfall in staff. They're still closing, but obviously they have to close by August 31st because they have to have EFS and EFT numbers. And I'm waiting for some kind of reconciliation with them. I wish they will be on a call with me, like Brooklyn had a superintendent. So they can talk about their process of closing. They have new budget director in their office. So John is very busy right now, learn and catch up with stuff. And I understand we both new in the city and board. So I think after we try to complete what we need to complete, we sit down and we start the process of doing audit. I'm familiar with audit process, and I know that our auditor is already exhausted probably to finish audit in July and start new audit. But I talked to him, and he said, no, that's fine. We can do it. I don't know when he's gonna start. I didn't really do the exactly when, but we're definitely gonna hit the ground soon. We get the Board of Ed side clear up. At this point, I'm still learning what we have in the budget, and I'm kind of reviewing stuff. I find even right now, I was reviewing, I find stuff I probably should check twice. But as far as revenue going strong, and we have a pretty good year with, again, we're doing lots of police doing a lot of private duties functions and brings beautiful revenue to the city. We have a good progress with town clerk conveyance taxes, people buying, selling, and I think we also had some sales of properties this year too. So we're trying to bring money in, and I try to secure good fund balance. At this point, I'm also kind of looking into the more in-depth how we're doing with self-insurance. I realized that we may need to make some deeper analysis. I realized that WPCA pays the city based on premium, not based on claims. And unfortunately, we don't have I think we have to set some new parameters here. How we're dealing with this situation. We have more than, city and Board of Ed entities here. So we need to really clear this up to get who pays for what, I would say.
So can I, this is Kate Bush, can I interrupt you there just on that? You said the WPCA is paying into your self-insurance fund based on a premium,
Yeah.
not on claims. how are you determining the premiums that they are being charged? Are you having an actuary analyze and give you recommended premiums?
So I look at the journal entry from actuaries. I think the journal entry is really percentage of the. I base on the premium. So my predecessor was doing journal entry, and what I'm seeing is based on premium. If it's the premium from, I think it's more premium from invoice and its allocation than really claims. And I reach out to actuaries to get me claims numbers so I can true up the number. More to actual claims. It's a small population, a few people. I can get I wasn't able to get the numbers first, but I will get the numbers to get right number to be true up. So after that, we probably will be in pretty good shape this year with projection and outcome of the claims. So I feel strongly that maybe this year is a good year, and I already moved money to separate bank account for reserves. Maybe after clarification, I need to talk to the board how we're going to conduct business next year, or how we figure out the needs to keep reserves going. Other side of the story, it's a workers' comp claims. I didn't have a chance to run this properly. There's a huge fluctuation between years, so I really need to get auditor. I need to get separate fund and getting this kind of according to audit. Means I will take audit number from 2020 and move on with to 21 with my numbers. That's kind of project for me on top of other projects. I'm alone in the office as accountant. I will hire probably in a few weeks deputy, and we probably gonna work together to get this stuff quicker than I wish we can get this by the end of December. But as I said, there's a lot of work to cover. I need to really get some processes going well, and I like challenge, but this is really challenge. So I would say I'm positive, and it's nothing really I probably would be scared of, but I need time and support to do the things I would like to do. Also, I'm thinking about, going more. I work with old system. I'm working with 2 systems, and I would like to get probably a new one. And that's the dilemma too. So I had to pick the battle basically at this point. Other than that, we're updating certain things for the audit just to keep things up to date. But final review have to be waiting for more numbers from Board of Ed and tying some little stuff. I rushed. I have to apologize, but I rushed before submitting the things because I didn't really have an audit at a certain time. So we still kind of bouncing deferred revenue, receivable, and I just moved the ARPA grant out of the general fund, and I created new fund. So lots of changes kind of around, but at least I get kind of first good look at what what's the year end may look like. So I was hoping around 11-12% fund balance would be looking, I think looks great at this point.
Okay.
Kate, I have a question. It's Kim.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Agata, I have a question regarding your staffing. If you said you were the only accountant there at this time?
So I have support, but I do have one more person who coming and help me with other software, and that's a big help. So I can concentrate on this side software, and I will get more accountant and more review process going into when we start audit, finalizing audit. So I'm waiting basically for deputy.
Yeah, but my concern is that if you wait till December, there is no way that you can get your audit completed on time this year at all.
The deputy is coming in September, I assume.
Oh, do you have somebody selected already?
We are interviewing next week.
Okay.
Okay.
And then I guess they were slotted for one more position because the person that was sitting in interim, I think we heard at the last meeting, had gotten approval for two accounting staff. I think it was 2 or 2.5 for a total of like 3.5 staff. Do I have that right?
So we have a budget for a bookkeeper, but I really need someone with more. So bookkeeper is what was budgeted, but bookkeeper can have different meanings. Someone who works with trial balances and ledger, or someone just enters deposits. So we want to get someone with more robust skills, and that's why I'm kind of looking for. I have one person ready, and I probably will. That's what I have. I choose a person right now to just keep doing what we're doing to keep up with, updating stuff. But I need more stronger than just bookkeeper, I would say.
When you hire the deputy, what will your staffing look like? You'll have a finance director, a deputy finance director, and what else?
2 assistants, clerks, accounts payable and payroll.
Okay. Okay.
So it's 4.
All right.
Does the Board of Ed have their own, or you oversee that as well?
So Board of Ed had some staffing problems too, because accounts payable person left, and it was very hard at the end of the year. So they have replacement now. I think they still sending me information, and I don't know. I think they hired someone just to do accounts payable. So.
But they have their own staff. You don't do their accounting for them.
So I don't do accounting for them, but I definitely need to talk to them quite often.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I totally understand that. Okay. I would like to go to your response to our letter. Your response dated August 10th. I think we'll probably all, we'd like to see continued movement on the self-insurance fund. I was concerned about your response to number 2 about the post-employment benefits. And your response was that the workers' compensation reserve need to be worked on. We wanted to look at your pension and post-retirement medical benefits and make sure that your funding for those is appropriate. So could you revisit that and tell us what is going on with your post-employment benefits?
OPEB. So right now, we don't have a separate trust fund. We don't have regular, like some cities, just towns use the trust formally, but some cities choose not to and pay as a go. Yep. So I think until I have a time to do this, after a month being here, I would be looking into it, formalization, but I want to make sure people are on the board with this. So I have to have processes in place to being able to, for the community to understand what we're looking for.
Okay.
And that's the process. I think it's more important than just establish trust and never fund the trust,
I agree.
And that's the policy we need to really set up what we're gonna do. And I need to really look at the valuation, like, it's what's the actuarial valuation right now we're gonna go through, and working with hard numbers, what the contribution may be. At this point, I wasn't really paying attention much, but it's a process. I think we know that. And I definitely would like to see that, but I have to take one thing at a time at this point. And I understand OPEB is important part, but also I see different, if you cannot, we're just rebuilding our fund balance. So that's if we have strong fund balance, we will doing other reserves. That's my common sense.
Okay, and I'm just going to ask one more question, and then I will go through the board members. Your corrective action plan status, double entry accounting. Where do we stand on getting all funds using double entry accounting?
So I think that the dilemma here is really about good software, and I think that's what people are afraid of and changing. But and I think what I'm seeing here, and I can compare to other, software is a blood life of the accounting system, and I don't see much really robust software here. So, and that's kind of my take on it, because we can keep up with what we're doing, but it's double accounting. It's really what, you have your plan and you have your old chart of accounts, in one place, not two or, Board of Ed is third one. But that's the beauty of combining everything together, under one accounting. And that's kind of, I'm thinking double accounting is basically you're doing a good bookkeeping job. But it's here. I think it's a reason why we're having so much problems is because I see how hard it is to combine both. There's no really due tos, due froms set up. Kind of, this is decentralized accounting system. So that's probably the bottleneck of everything. And then I feel that that's the reason why we're having problems.
Yep. So what are you doing about software? Where, are you investigating? I see you say you later on in that response that the GEM system crashed.
Yeah. So I'm investigating, and I have some ideas. I don't afraid new stuff, but I have to talk first to people who will fund this process. And I don't think it's expensive too. So I have my hopes.
I think that should be a priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that, and I kind of felt this way because learning for new people coming and learning old software is better to learn new software. And I have a question to Bill. Do I have to do a uniform chart of accounts?
That's not a requirement at this point.
No. Yeah, I was just looking for.
You may want to look at it if you put in a new system, to use we already have one, so yeah.
So I have old system. I could probably do something better, but with old accounts, I think it's not a big deal. But if I need to go and restructure chart of accounts, would be a little bit harder. But it's doable. It's not a complicated budget.
There are plenty of other communities you can borrow from, to get a good structure. You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, but people like old numbers, that's why I definitely would like to get different chart of flow of accounts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I need, basically, get the better flow, and using chart of accounts will be nice. Uniform chart of accounts would be nice to kind of get the template, but I would just, whatever can be easy. We have plenty of, room here. But as I said, I start thinking about it very seriously because this would solve really problem. And I think that the reason why I'm saying that because, you're starting the new year clean, and I have some few things with the system we're having because it doesn't balance trial balance. So it's other issue with I didn't expect to see, but that's the reason why I'm pushing kind of, we should just get the new, well-organized, up-to-date, with data-driven software.
Okay, John?
Oops. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't unmute immediately. Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to say that you're obviously making progress, but you're very early in this. And I know you've got some of the other leadership and political leadership of the city there. You can't let up on bringing in more resources and making sure this gets done right. Where you are now, you're still looking in the rear view mirror all the time instead of currently managing your finances, including of course, the long-term other liabilities. So I think this is going to be a long, hard, tough slog for you, and I just want to make sure that city doesn't knows it's got to go on without letting up for a good long time here. It's not easy to come from where you were.
And I think there is a progress because I see for pension this year, city last year, 21, we put it extra money, and it's still in this budget. So 2 years in a row, we're keeping up with replenishing pension. So I think it's good.
Yeah, understood, and I appreciate that, and good work. But I just want to make sure that the powers that be understand that it ain't over till it's over, and probably more resources are going to have to be brought in, especially on the system side and integrating all of this.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think it's a all situation come up because you cannot maintain many systems. And you know what? There's a better solution because the system can really work with Board of Ed too. So it's can be really well done if it's well quickly implemented. So I don't know. I have to just figure out what we can be doing because options are there, and I think not really. I just need more time to settle things here and find out what's more important. And I understand concern about liability. I'm glad we don't have big claims this year because I definitely have to work on some policy where we're gonna do specific funding for reserves. And my goal is really to I work with actuarial number and whatever the required is, but also if we are in a situation when big claims coming, what we're doing, and maybe that's the other policy we need to focus first because we need to start making reserves and just training kind of thing with making reserves to every self-insurance and every liability.
You may want to look, what solutions or, what changes can you make that will resolve the most of your problems and do those first, kind of like how the electric company puts the power back on, they're putting it back on to get the most people on each time. So, if getting new software is going to solve a lot of these outstanding issues, tackle that first. And
I strongly believe that's a software thing would definitely make things really easy and getting stuff on books quicker and that's my kind of understanding. It doesn't matter how many people you can have to work on something. If you have old tools, it takes longer. Right.
Okay, Mike, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. And first off, Agatha, this is Mike LeBlanc. So I will thank you for the presentation and welcome you to Derby. I certainly wish you well in the many difficult challenges you've got in front of you. But I think it's great that the town was able to bring you in to, start down this path. And again, I wish you, great success in the expediency with what you have in front of you. Just to touch upon the comments about, I think the obvious end game is the need for a financial management system, a new one. One certainly that would be integrated and ultimately incorporate all of the funds and the Board of Ed as well. And I'm concerned a little bit about your comment as far as the issue of finding the money or allocating the money. And I think this raises to the level of, if you need to do a special additional appropriation, even if it comes out of fund balance, to line up the money as soon as possible so that you're able to move forward with the implementation of a new system rather than waiting until it's put forward in the budgetary process, be it for fiscal 23 or later. Again, I think there's a justified degree of urgency to have discussions with the town officials and the Board of Ed for looking to commit the funding that may be necessary. It's great. Your estimates on fund balance, it looks like for June 30th, 2020, you'll be at 4.6 million, just over 10%. And it looks like for June 30th, 21, you're looking at close to 5.5 million cumulative fund balance in the neighborhood of 12%. So those are really good indicators. You know, certainly it sounds like you may have some exposure on some of your reserve funds, but you know, certainly from a budgetary standpoint, things are moving in the right direction. And I really just had one question. You spoke a little bit about the pension funding. It's great that it sounds like over 100% of the annual ADEC is being funded and contributed. I just had a question of, is there a pension issue from a funding status in Derby, or is the plan relatively well funded?
I think it's at 73% right now. It's a 73% right now, I think, funding, and in 2020.
Actually, Agatha, I'll jump on that. This is Andrew Backlick. The number is closer to 79% at this moment. So we're in good shape with our pension, I think better than a lot of communities out there. So I think that is a strength for us. And just while I have the floor, I just will respond to John's comment about the staff. Agatha has the full support of all our boards and commissions here. She has the full support of the mayor's office. Whatever she needs, she will be provided. And the reason we didn't fill that deputy role sooner is we really wanted her to have some input as to who her second in command was going to be. So we have 11 candidates lined up for interviews next week. We are going to bring in other outside municipal finance professionals to sit on that hiring committee with her to make sure we get the right person with the right skill set to be able to support her efforts. But I think the general tone in town is excitement around Agatha's arrival, and I know she's doing a great job, and I know it's also overwhelming to inherit a situation such as this, and to be grilled by you folks every 2 months is definitely got to be tenuous too. But we look forward to the challenge, and we have confidence that she will get it done. So,
thank you. That's excellent.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kim, did you have other questions?
Yeah, I do. I definitely agree with Mike on the system part of it. But Agata, as you look at all of the many deliverables, and as we all know, Derby is under a microscope in the financial sector. And I think that you have to focus on the biggest priorities and the things that you can knock off quickly and start to change that financial structure. It's like the foundation is crumbling in the finance area. I know some progress has been made, but the infrastructure is not there. And so with your hire, it sounds as if we're going to get there. And you just need to have the support that you need, and then pick off, when do you put the new system in? Because you've got a June 30th audit right now. That's, you got to complete. If I was in your chair as a CFO, in my past, I've inherited, not of town, but I inherited an entity that was in a similar situation. And, I had to get my big wins first. And my big win would be tackling this audit and get the audit behind me, focusing on when is the right time to put in a new system. Usually you put it in the beginning of a fiscal year. So that would give you so many months to be able to start to plan, buy, and move it forward. Now, I don't have your daily challenges, so you need to know that, but I wouldn't want to put a brand new system in at this very moment and then find out you can't get the audit completed. So again, it can't be at the expense of the audit. In my mind, your town was one of the last ones to get completed past the deadline. So I think that it would be your benefit to move that needle in the right direction. Look at some of the infrastructure that you have. I would definitely look at your priorities. And then this way, once you have your priority list, that's something that you can also talk back to this committee. And I want also to note that this committee is not put together to, the words were grueling. We're not here to gruel people. We're here to help you. We're here to give guidance. And I don't look at us as being in that manner. And if it is holding people accountable, it is, but that's what we're finance folks, and we want to make sure that this town is successful. That's really the whole background of it. And if everybody isn't hearing the message that the finance side needs help, we are here to tell you with experts from the field of, you know what, you really do need help in that finance area. So Agatha, that's what this committee is about.
Yeah, and I have a dilemma. The reason why I'm talking money, because basically you don't use budget money if you don't have a budget, yes? So that's my take on it, and go through the process, appropriation, additional money, yes. I think it's doable because I already have a good pricing. But only thing is, for example, timing. I would say the timing can be disputable because having 2020 numbers, just put as a beginning balances, and doing phase maybe we outsourcing payroll. So payroll is not the biggest component of the situation, not really big component because it's outsourced. And also I was thinking also there is almost 6 or 8 months of trying the new software, and that's the thing. You want to start live at certain point. So there's a beauty of transition too. So there's a lot of good stuff to have, 2 things running, and I'm familiar with at least 2 software, accounting softwares, which are pretty, I just afraid that keeping things alive, an old system, can be really takes longer than it has to be. That's my just dilemma. But it is risky to change software right away. And I probably, if we put more money, we can get great consultants who, for money get everything settled, converted for you. And that's a question of, if someone wants to pay extra money for, conversion and things like that, because that can be done as not by my office, but people who do this on daily basis. Mm-hmm. So, the question how to do it. But I understand the audit is priority right now. But I was kind of thinking maybe I can do something similar, keeping stuff going same time and just let it go all systems sooner than later. I don't know. I have a dilemma how to proceed on this, but I understand that can be risky too.
Yeah, you've got a lot on your plate.
Oh, yeah.
And Kim's right. The audit, getting the audit taken care of, will be huge. And then dealing with the backbone of your financial system, if you don't have that taken care of, it's harder to trust the results that are coming out of it. If there are weaknesses in your accounting system, if in your software, in your processes, it's harder to be sure that what's coming out is good and that you won't have surprises.
Mm-hmm. So I tell you, my dilemma is like there's no due tos built in the software, and there's lots of comments about closing due tos, and like the dues cannot be closed by just you had all reconciled due tos due froms. There's no such a thing here, and new software will help me.
Yep.
Because help me with balancing stuff. I don't have balancing act here on 2 different software, and there's no setup like that. So having this dilemma, I'd rather be on new software, just making sure my duties are balanced and I can move the money around easily instead of, hey, which check I should use to pay you. So that's my dilemma on what the process should be. I understand the processes with new software would be much easier to keep reconciliation going, keep closing stuff going, and things like that. But right now, I just, there's lots of research and finding stuff where things are too. So really kind of slows me down.
50 bank accounts is something to be questionable.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I would say with partially pooled cash, the system would help me. because I could consolidate special revenues or capital kind of easier, and that could be kind of positive stuff to keep things under, one system reconcilement kind of thing, instead of having many little stuff, and maybe they're not active, but I need to account for each of them.
I mean, certainly, Agatha, with having payroll outsourced, I think that's a big advantage as far as, confronting the implementation of a new system.
Yeah.
I think, ultimately it's going to be at your discretion, but, maybe maybe the target date is for July 1 of 2022 for the new system, or based on how things roll out over the next several months for you, it may even be earlier. Certainly conceding or understanding the audit is a priority, but once you get that behind you, I think, almost on a parallel path, there ought to be some planning that starts with, ultimately where you're going to go. And again, the issue, at least that I see immediately up front, is not having a funding allocation in place for the new system. So, that's going to have to be dealt with, as well as you determine ultimately what you're going to go forward with from a system, and then establish the targeted implementation date.
Yeah, and definitely July 21st, 2022 is a target date to go live, but I would say that the prep work has to happen, much earlier, and you have, you basically use, most of the time you run both system parallel.
Yep, agree.
Just to get bugs out, but it's plenty of time to ask for right now to do it. Start working on it. It takes time to set up things, and that's the ideas of using time wisely before the new year.
Okay. Kim, are you good on your questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Tony?
Yes. I guess I would first, congratulations, Agatha, on your appointment. I wanted to I'm not going to repeat what was said about the system, but on how important it is. The one thing I will comment is that here in Woodbridge, we included the Board of Education on our system, and not only did it save money because we were both on one system, so there weren't two systems. The Board of Ed had to get a new system, and we just included them on ours. But it also improved transparency and collaboration with the Board of Ed, because we were all on the same system. So I just wanted to mention that. I'm not sure if that's too tall of an order here, but
yeah, you kind of be on the same path, because that's what I mentioned too. That would be best way to do it, and keeping parallel mapping stuff with Board of Ed wouldn't be really manual work anymore. So they can do it. The system they have new system. I'm not sure Board of Ed, but I'm thinking with price I saw it, it's like, wow, we're saving money. Just go with whatever they have, because it's really a good idea to be on the same system and mapping their entries and putting stuff directly.
A question I do have is, and you may not know the answer, but looking forward, how, and maybe the mayor's office can help with this. Are there any major issues with the 21-22 budget that you're aware of? I did try to look at the state grant revenue compared to your revenue budget, and while I was able to match a few of them, there were a few that I wasn't sort of aware of, or descriptions weren't exactly the same. So,
Drew, you want to answer?
Sure. Yeah. As of right now, I think we use whatever numbers were provided out of the Appropriations Committee, the Governor's Office, and CCM to construct the budget. So I know that we were really careful on that at the end of through the budget process. And David Taylor, who was here at the time, that was kind of a big conversation as we were adopting the budget. So I guess the good news is if and when some of those anticipated revenues don't come through, we, for the first time in a long time, have a pretty healthy fund balance, that if we had to dip into that, which we don't want to, and we didn't get the money we're anticipating, then we would be able to absorb such an issue.
Okay, but you don't know for there, you're not aware of any, but you haven't, I'm sure you, with all your other things to do, you haven't looked in too much detail.
No, haven't looked at, certainly haven't been alerted to anything being different than what we budgeted for. So at this point, I think we're in, and certainly we had no reason to worry about it. And just, again, while I have the floor, just to address what I said earlier, was my poor attempt to add some levity. I used the word grilling, which just meaning questioning. I think I can speak for the mayor when I say that this city fully appreciates the efforts of this commission and what they've done to keep us on the right path. And as a financial layman, I've gotten an education over the last year and a half plus that we've been dealing with this. So just to respond to Ms. Tennyson, certainly didn't mean any offense to that. It's just on top of, I was just speaking to Agatha's efforts on top of having to do the day-to-day to come talk about it all the time has been tough on her too. So just wanted to commend her for that, and commend David and Keith for what they did previously. The fact that we're at 8.35% fund balance at the end of in the audit is really almost somewhat impressive, I feel like, for the efforts that were put forth previously. So I don't think that can be lost at this moment either.
The only other comment I would make is, and that was mentioned earlier, is one of your best resources are other finance directors, either in similar communities or in the just same general area. So feel free to reach out to any of us for assistance, offline here.
Yeah.
I would echo that.
Yes.
Okay, Becky, did you have anything?
Yes, I have a number of comments regarding your pension and OPEB situation. I'm Becky Seelman. I'm an actuary, so this is my purview. I would, based on my experience, one of the most important things that any community can do with respect to addressing their OPEB and pension unfunded liabilities is to make sure that those liabilities are being responsibly measured using conservative assumptions. So you really know where you are. And then making a plan to fund them in a sustainable manner over a sufficiently long period of time. When I look at your 2020 audit, it paints a picture of consistently and significantly underfunding the pension trust relative to the contribution levels. And it may be appropriate to re-examine how those contribution levels are being determined so that it is a number that is feasible within the city, within the overall budget, and then sticking with the discipline to pay that contribution amount year in, year out. So I'd encourage you to step back and do some study. The big liability, your pension board probably meets with your investment advisor on a quarterly basis and spends a lot of time and energy thinking about the investments. And I'd encourage you to spend that same amount of time and energy on the liability side, which is the bigger number after all. Ensure that you have an experienced study to set the actuarial assumptions so that they're appropriate to your plan and your plan population. One of the things I see in the audit report is continued actuarial losses. That's an indication that the assumptions are not doing a good job of anticipating experience. Have evaluation done every year, not every other year, because again, the liability is the bigger number, not the assets. And it's the liability that you want to make sure is being accurately measured. And then put together a long-term funding plan for both pension and OPEB. For OPEB, a lot of communities have had some sort of a phase-in approach to gradually working up to paying the full actuarially determined amount. That's worked very well in a lot of communities. And we now see a lot of Connecticut municipalities that have pretty well-funded OPEB plans just 10 or 15 years after having started that endeavor. But above all else, create a plan that's financially sustainable and keep the discipline to stick with it.
Yeah, definitely. We will work with our actuaries to confirm what's appropriate, and I get back to you. And I'm curious too how numbers look like now.
Okay. Glenn, did you have any comments? I know you're bond counsel, but
No comments other than that it is, it's going to be a big hill. Agata is certainly up to the task, and the city's in good hands now to move it forward. And I echo everybody else's concerns with regards to, again, that the department gets sufficient support, both from a monetary standpoint and budgetary standpoint, as well as the physical people doing the work.
okay, thank you. Anything else for Derby? Okay, thank you all very much. And as we said, Agata, reach out to us if you need help. You don't have to wait for these meetings. If you have questions, you've got a lot of experience sitting here on the board. We've been through some, dealt with this in, working in our towns too. So feel free to reach out to us if you have questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next up is Hamden. And boy, do we have a lot of documents from Hamden. Who do we have with us today?
Good morning. This is Mayor Lang, and along with me, I have Finance Director Scott Jackson, Deputy Finance Director Rick Galarza, and Chief of Staff Adam Sendroff. How's everybody today?
You're good.
Excellent.
Hi, Mayor.
How are you?
So let's
just start off with a couple.
Yeah, give us a brief update.
Yeah, a very brief update. I'm going to hand it off to the finance team to go into some of the details. But Hamden's financial story is a success right now. We're trying to move things in the right direction, and I think the numbers are showing a strengthening financial position while still having a long road to hoe. We had a very successful bond refinancing last week. And just to be clear, that was a straight refinancing and not a refunding. Originally, we had a goal of a savings of $1 million, $1.15 million, with the refinance effort, and we were successful in having that refinance save us over to $2.1 million, and we were 6 times oversubscribed for the bonds, which is something that was really a positive, and we're very excited about. Move the interest rates from a little over 4% to 1.5%. We went through 2 municipal credit rating agency review processes with Fitch and with Standard & Poor, and thankfully S&P changed our outlook from negative to stable. Fitch held us at the same level, and given the changing world that we live in and the challenges that we face, we were really happy with those results. We talked a few times on these calls about 6-year capital plans, and which Hamden's traditionally had annually, updated annually, but had not refreshed in a few years. And I'm pleased to report to the group that new plan has been completed, has been submitted to council, and that the Legislative Council has started to work on it and has approved some portions of it, and will continue to work on the remainder of it. So trying to keep it brief, and then I'll be happy to return. I'd like to pass the mic, if you will, to our Finance Director Jackson, for budgeting updates, fund balance restoration update, a year-end closeout, FY22 start off, and ARPA, and anything else that you might want to share.
Thank you, Mayor. I will go through some of the items on the agenda. So I think you've received the FY22 adopted budget. You'll see that it increases revenue and expenditures from 248 million and change to 262 million and change. Some of that is due to we had a reval last year that increased the grant list by $300 million, and then some of it is a tax increase. The mill rate increased by about $500,000, but it's a very forward-thinking budget. in my analysis, and it certainly captures some of the things that have been problematic for the town in the past. It slightly overfunds pension, it slightly overfunds medical, and it definitely overfunds debt service as part of our unbalanced restoration plan. So I think you've also received that what was a deficit mitigation plan, but now is a fund balance restoration plan, because we did see a fantastic year-end result. Revenue was $10 million over expenses. And we are still closing out the books for Board of Education, which always returns something, but we're presuming that they're going to spend down to the last penny, which hasn't happened ever. So there will be a little bit there. We're also presuming, because there's some outstanding purchase orders for public works, that they're going to spend to the last penny, but that will probably not happen either. We did see some, as I think a lot of communities did, a lot of increases in municipal solid waste as people worked from home and they were throwing away their garbage at home as opposed to at work. If they throw it away at work, it gets charged to wherever they work. If they throw it away at home, it gets charged to us. So we're chasing down the last of the purchase orders in public works as well, but we're very conservative right now in terms of our total expenditures. Mayor mentioned the 5-year capital plan, which has been submitted to you as well. The council approved approximately $4.7 million of the $10.2 million this week, and they will be scheduling a meeting to try to capture the rest of it. The council asked for plans for use of the ARPA funds. We are scheduled to receive approximately $24 million in ARPA funds. To date, we have received just under $6 million, and the mayor is convening some public input sessions starting on, I think, August 25th. To start to develop some sense from the community as to what they would support in use of these funds. The funds have not been budgeted. They have not been pre-programmed. We want to make sure that we use the dollars in a way that is useful and supported by the community. There's also a fund balance policy question. That fund balance policy would require approval by the Legislative Council. We started to socialize the issue, and I submitted some of the policies that we have developed as sort of first drafts of where we might want to go, so that the members of the council can have a sense of what such a policy might look like. There's also on the agenda the June 30th meeting, audit and management letter. We don't disagree with any of the findings from the auditor. Item number 1 is vacancies in the finance office. 8 years ago, there were 10 people here. Now there are 5. But the Legislative Council recognized that deficiency, and in the 22 budget, they added an additional account clerk, an additional payroll clerk, and started the creation of a grants management office within finance that has a manager and a staff member. So we've gone from 5 back to 9 in this budget.
That's good news.
The general fund balance is low. In fact, it was negative by the audit that I received on my second or third day on the job in February. We've absolutely turned that around in a dramatic fashion this year. Like I said, we're looking at a positive $10 million at year-end close. which wipes away the negative 2.6 in a fairly significant fashion. The auditor's letter, capital projects, funded reserve. We haven't gone out for capital, so there really weren't dollars to transfer. We still have about $36 million in outstanding capital funds, $30 million of which is on the Board of Ed side. The use of, or the application of fringe benefits to grants, that is one of the reasons for the Grant Management Office, so we can have a sort of a single point of focus where we can apply uniform standards to all grant applications. The auditor pointed out the tornado fund. Again, that was due to sort of a lack of staff oversight of how it moves forward, as well as the ice rink. We have redoubled our efforts with the ice rink, and the ice rink actually turned a profit last year. So we're pretty proud of that one. So all in all, we take the audit seriously. We take the management letter seriously, the one that is available on EARS. And all things considered, we really had a great FY 2021, and the budget for 22 is even better. Again, there's no ARPA funds included in the budget, and our large dollar items are overfunded to provide a little bit of. So that's my general overview. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, I actually I don't have any at the moment. Let me just start. Go to John.
I don't either. Thank you for the presentation.
Mike?
Also, I'll just extend thanks for the updates from both the mayor and from you, Scott. I was looking at some of the material that had been provided, and I just had one question. There's references to a phase 2 planned restructuring in, it looks like, July of 2022. Is that still on in the plans?
It is, but we might advance it because we just went to market and we had such a favorable response. And this current legislative council, which will change in November, we might want to take advantage of their knowledge of this plan and get the authorizations to move forward, timing to be determined with this council.
Yeah, and that, the timing, certainly it looks like it's going to weigh heavily or from an implication standpoint on your 2023 fiscal budget. Because I think you're anticipating some savings benefiting debt service in 2023.
We are, but it is the value of the plan is that it also is a dedicated fund balance restoration plan. So even if we receive savings, our expenditure for debt service will continue to increase. And we have a charter provision that prohibits the removal of any dollars or transfer of any dollars out of debt service. And that's why we want to kind of move this with this council, because they have for 2 years deliberately overfunded debt service because they understand the long-term implications of such. So we will have the opportunity to achieve savings, but we will use those savings and additional funding to continue to increase the fund balance.
Yeah, no, it's a great plan. And just looking at the projected budgeted debt service, though, you are anticipating that, when you get out to 23, 24, and 25, it looks like you're going to be gradually increasing, by a couple $1 million each year, your budgeted debt service?
That is correct. And so instead of making it a huge jump in any given year, we're smoothing that out by continually increasing debt service. So when we hit that, mark of say $30 million in debt service, it will already be baked into the budget from a mill rate standpoint.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Kim?
Yes. Well, it's still morning. Mayor and Scott, thank you for your presentation. And one question really is from the reporting side and the materials provided. I see that you have Munis, and knowing that I have experience with folks that other towns that use Munis with the MARB. I know that Munis has a flexible format and of reporting, but the reports that we're receiving are really, I would say, at a granular level and could be brought up to a little bit more of a summary surface level, and as well as not so much detail. And they don't include the budget. So I'm not sure if the budget is in the system or not, but the way the budgeting is, it does take a while to get through the review of your town. And I think it could be a lot easier in a different format. And I don't think that OPM has worked with your town, and I'm not sure if you have the expertise on this reporting, but if you don't, we do have somebody in-house who could assist with giving some guidance on other reporting that would be helpful for this committee.
I think we could, a year-to-date budget report is what you're looking for, Kim.
Yeah.
And if they would maybe choose to go at the department level. This looks like a budget, a next year budget report, which is different. So the year-to-date budget report would give you budget, current balances.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, creation of a year-to-date budget report is pretty simple. Maybe I can talk to you, Ms. Kennison, or Mr. Plummer about the specifics of what you want to see.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Tony?
Thank you. Scott, thank you and Mayor, thank you for your presentation. I have a question about your next year's 22 budget. That sounds like it's good news so far. I was trying to compare your grant revenue, and it appears as if you've conservatively budgeted for some of your grant revenue, particularly the ECS grant, which looked like you are, about, if I'm reading that correctly, it's about $9 million. I think. So my question is, are there any revenue issues in the 22 budget? Or I always like to, to see if there are any revenues that were budgeted for that are not likely to be collected, or that were overestimated, or anything of that nature.
Short answer is no. We get the bulk of our revenue through tax collection, and when we look at the pandemic year, 2021, we still pulled in 99.5% of our anticipated revenue. Building permits are hot and heavy. We don't actually have enough staff in the building department right now to do all the inspections that are outstanding. So building is a significant component of our general government revenue. We've got so much work in building that we're looking at hiring temporary inspectors to clear some of these permits. The state of Connecticut came in very well. We lost in some places, but we gained significantly in the tiered program that was established. Police is pretty constant. We need to do some revisions to our collection policies regarding extra duty. That's the only hindrance in police. Yeah, no, it all looks good, and there are projects on the boards um, that will be permitted this year. So from a planning and zoning and building standpoint, I think we're going to do well in 20.
That's great. Thanks. I always like to good to hear about that, your revenues. Thank you.
Becky?
Yes, hi. If you were on the phone earlier for Derby, you heard my speech about paying attention to the liability side of pension and OPEB benefits. I think the S&P rating report had a very succinct summary of your woes in that area, and I'm sure you're fully aware of them. My concern for you would be the liquidity needs of your pension plan, because the funded ratio is pretty low. The interest rate assumption is quite high. You have a very long amortization period. So I think it would behoove you to have long-range forecasts that are focused on the liquidity needs of the plan be run. And you may need to alter your investment allocation so that you are focused more on throwing off cash to pay benefits. That may mean that you take on less equity risk, and that may mean you have to lower the interest rate assumption, which is already too high anyway. But I think you need to be very mindful of making sure that the plan doesn't run dry of money before the retirees have all received their benefits and passed away. So spend some time and energy on that. You, of course, have unfunded OPEB. That's a very large number. I'd encourage you to look at creating a plan to setting up a trust and starting to pre-fund those benefits. Some sort of a phase-in approach, again, it has worked very well with a lot of communities. But those are big dollars that Hamden has promised to pay to a lot of people. And absent any pre-funding, you're going to be facing some pretty rapidly escalating pay-as-you-go costs.
Thank you. We have a retirement board that directs the investment strategy. As of June 30th, the plan held $203 million, which is more than it has ever held in its existence. The plan is closed, and so we have projections from our financial advisors as to what we can think about for an increase year over year. Obviously, the ADEC is determined on an annual basis, and we've been paying a little bit more than the ADEC into the fund over the last couple of years.
Yeah, but the ADEC is calculated using an interest rate assumption that's probably too high by 50 or 75 basis points, and using a very long amortization period. So it's nice that you're contributing more than that amount, but that amount is probably too low to meet the needs of a plan. So start by right-sizing the actuarial assumptions, do an experience study if you haven't done one in the last 5 years, make sure the assumptions are solid, think about the length of the amortization period, do long-range modeling to make sure that if you do pay at a certain level of contribution, that you will have sufficient liquidity to pay all of the benefits.
Absolutely, and the retirement board did give me the authority to initiate negotiations on an experience study with our actuary. So that is underway.
Super.
The OPEB, until that particular GASB statement came out, pre-funding of those OPEB liabilities was a rare thing. We did create a trust. We do put 6 figures into it and don't touch it. We do pay those benefits directly out of our medical self-insurance line. We paid about $17 million out of the $48 million in 21 for retiree benefits.
Scott, do you still offer health care to new hires? Because in addition to controlling the cost by pre-funding it, another way to control it is to limit the benefit. So I'm curious if you still offer that to new hires, or if you considered to, to introduce that into negotiations.
Yes, all of our contracts are more or less coterminous in 23. So, that's sort of a number one goal of contract negotiations.
Glenn, do you have anything?
My only question is a small one. I see that you've given us that deficit mitigation plan as well as the capital projections going out to 25, 26. In that mitigation plan, I see the restructuring, the 2021 issues, as well as the plan 2022 to get to that pro forma debt service. Has it been looked at to see, given the amount of the capital projects going forward, any future capital financing, any new money down the road and how that's going to impact that mitigation plan?
Yes, it was projected at $10.5 million in this fiscal year and $6.5 million for future years. We have $10.5 million for this fiscal year and $6.5 million for future years.
Oh, okay.
So we have a charter debt limit, and so those are the numbers that fit within that charter debt limit.
Okay, so you had mentioned the limitation before, which is good. I guess my only question would be is that you've got this all the work that you've done for the mitigation plan. What that just I was curious what the impact is for that future debt issuance, how that impacts that.
Yeah, the part of the baseline for that mitigation plan was presuming new money in that order over the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have anything else on Hamden at this point? If not, thank you very much, and I think you're making some good progress, and we look forward to continuing to talk with you.
Oh, I cannot wait to see the audit for 21. That's gonna
we can't either.
Said
All
no
right.
one ever before. We're so excited to see these audits.
There you
Thank
go.
you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on our agenda is an ARPA funding overview.
Yeah, Julian's going to provide us with an overview, Kate.
Okay.
He's done some extensive work in this area and attended a lot of conferences, so he's trying to stay up to date for all of our towns.
All right, Julian, have at it.
Thank you. This is something that we prepared for the MARB members originally, with the expectation that they would be asking our designated municipalities to update them periodically on their plans for use of the funding. And so it, provides an overview of the framework, eligible expenses under the funding rules and so forth. And then, so I've updated that. I intend to redistribute that to our MARB members from the original version that went out about a month ago. And Kim asked me to make sure it got into this packet as well. So I've actually included some of the data related to the MFAC towns. And so, again, this is very high level. There's about $350 billion overall that was granted for states and local governments and tribal governments. Out of that amount, about $130 billion is specifically for local governments across the country, and about $1.5 billion for local governments in Connecticut. And of that amount, there's a significant portion that was allocated for counties. And since we have no functioning county government in Connecticut, those funds have also been sort of distributed on a population basis or per capita basis to municipalities. So there's sort of two streams or two um, allocations for each of the municipalities that are shown in that table in the memo. You can see the amount that was designated specifically for the municipality, the portion that each is getting as a result of the county distribution, and then the total funds that they anticipate receiving. And you can see that it's a kind of a broad range in sort of the scale of funding as you go from Hartford to Sprague and so forth. The U.S. Treasury has provided a lot of guidance thus far on how the funds may be used, the reporting requirements, how the funds will be distributed and so forth. They issued an interim rule back in May. They have not issued a final rule yet, but there's been considerable conversation. There's been numerous webinars from GFOA, ICMA. There have been frequently asked question documents produced that are all available. There's discussion boards. So there's a lot of information kind of swirling around regarding the details of the interim rule, and hopefully that any remaining ambiguity that there is on how to interpret the rule would be resolved when the final rule is eventually issued. But the final, any opportunity to comment on the interim was closed a couple weeks ago. You can see the funding is being distributed in two tranches or two distributions, one that's already been made and one that will happen about a year from May. And then because of the nuance in Connecticut, we have something that might be a little different from other states. So for non-entitlement communities, so that's communities that are, you can equate it to the CDBG program for communities that get their CDBG funds as a pass-through from the state. Those non-entitlement communities are getting all of their funding as a pass-through from the state. For the larger communities, the entitlement communities, they're getting their municipal allocation directly through the U.S. Treasury using the U.S. Treasury's portal, and then their share of the county allocation is being treated as a pass-through from the state. And I believe the county allocations, 50% of those have already been distributed. I know at least for the handful of towns that I followed up with. As far as eligible uses go, there's 4 broad categories, which I'll just kind of click through these without getting into all the detail that's laid out there. But the first broad category is responding to the public health and economic impacts of the pandemic. So it sort of consists of 2 subcategories. Responding to the health impacts would be things like vaccine clinics, public health efforts. Could also encompass things like modifying buildings to make them safer, air handling, HVAC improvements, for example, those kinds of things. There's also a range of related health programs that could be funded, mental health programs, substance abuse services, and so forth. And this is one area where specifically to municipal expenses, you could charge off a portion of public health and safety staff payroll and benefits. And then the other subcategory under here is responding to the economic impacts of the pandemic, and that would be intended to address things like unemployment, businesses that suffered as a result of the closures, state closures, and so forth. And those actually can include direct payments to households and individuals, payments or loans to small businesses and nonprofits, and so on. The second category is premium pay to essential workers. That's intended to provide additional pay for essential workers, folks who kind of kept the economy and the healthcare system running while states were shut down. Some examples of those workers that would be considered essential, public health and public safety workers, hospital workers, nursing home, a big portion of the transportation and shipping industry, the food industry, and that there's more than that. But this would allow a municipality to offer up to an additional $13 an hour as a premium pay for anybody that qualifies as essential worker. It does not have to be a municipal worker. It could be third party, and this does allow for retroactive payments. So prior to the sort of funding period that this grant encompasses, which begins March 3rd. I think I have addressed later in the memo. The third category is kind of a mouthful: to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue. So this is intended to restore services or avoid further cuts to services that may have been impacted by loss of revenue during the pandemic. This is a very broad area of spending. There's pretty much any governmental services would be eligible, capital expenditures. There's a very detailed process or method for calculating what the actual loss of revenue is, but it essentially boils down to 3 steps, which consist of establishing what your municipality's baseline revenue was prior to the pandemic. And for the purposes of Connecticut, that would be FY19 revenues. Then the second step would be calculating what revenues could or would have been had there not been a pandemic. And the rule allows for the use of a standard revenue growth rate of 4.1%, or using a municipality's historical actuals over a 3-year period. And then that's referred to as the counterfactual revenue. And then the third step is to basically compare the counterfactual revenue to what the actual revenue was over a specific period of time. That difference represents the revenue loss, and that's the funding that may be dedicated to this category of expenditures or use of the funds. And then the last category is water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. So this is essentially three specific categories of capital spending. I've also listed here some of the very specific restrictions of uses of the funds, offsetting a reduction in taxes that result from a change in the tax rate. And I believe, having gone back and reread this section, I believe that actually only applies to the states that receive this funding and not municipalities. And then the others here do definitely apply to municipalities, deposits to pension funds, replenishing fund balance, payments for legal settlements, debt, and using the fund as a match for other federal grants. And then here's on page 4 at the top is where I reference the time frame for the use of the funds. So it's costs incurred from March 3rd onward through December 31st of 2024, but it does allow for expending funds after that December 2024 date, as long as they were obligated prior to December 31st of 24. And then we have differing reporting requirements depending on the size of the government or the size of the community and the amount of funding that they received. So for some of the larger municipalities, there is a report with a deadline coming up in a few weeks. It's an interim report. I can't actually see these, not being an employee of a municipality where I can, assign myself access to the portal. But my understanding is that the interim report is a fairly streamlined report, compared to some of the other future ongoing reporting that'll be required. That's due at the end of this month. And then beginning in October, pretty much everybody will be responsible for ongoing reporting. So for the larger communities, it'll be a quarterly report. For the non-entitlement communities, it'll be annual, due on October 31st. And then there's a more involved report that only applies to states and much larger jurisdictions. And then at the end of this, I included references to some various resources to provide detail on interpreting the interim rule. And this is just kind of a fraction of what's out there. There's a lot of information out there, but these are some of the sources that I found more helpful.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. The next thing on our agenda is information updates. We had some data submitted by Ellington and Plymouth. Does anybody have any questions on them, things we want to go back to them and ask for more? Okay,
I'm
not
just
hearing.
checking. Yeah. I did not. I don't recall that we have anything. They both one gave an update.
Plymouth just sent us numbers.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so then Kim or somebody,
Yep, I want to make sure that we're able to close on time too for all of us. So the fiscal health monitoring system project, we have actually gone live with the financial indicator pieces of it, which is the all annual financial data. We went live in production, but we have not rolled it out to the towns as of yet. We're in the process right now of building job aids that would help assist towns to be able to enter their data. But so before we do that, we'll do a dry run. But we have gotten out of the test system for the other additional data that we're looking for. Our team right now is flushing through and pretending as if we are one of those towns. And so far, nothing alarming has come up. As soon as we complete the last stages, which is to make sure that we have job aids and then communication, we'll also do some videos. Mike did videos for us last time on each one of the steps, and we'll ask him to do that again for the future tiles that we're going to roll out. Would then put us, our goal is to complete all of this by the end of this month, if not sooner. And I would then ask for this group of towns, if any of you have a good week or not a good week that would be work for you, for us to begin to schedule time with you to have a run through to show you, the system and or you guys to be our beta testing, where we would turn on the tiles for just the towns here if you choose to enter your own FY20 data.
Okay.
For this team, when would be a good time? What I would probably say, like around, the first week or second week of September, but I want to be conscious of, the holiday.
What are you considering the first week? One that begins with Labor Day?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be the week of Labor Day, or it could be the following week.
The following week would be much better for me.
Perfect.
Me too, I think.
Perfect.
That's fine with me also.
Yeah.
All right, that's our goal.
Okay.
We will get something on your calendar to log that, and we will strive for that, for you to be the first to see what we have. And we will be welcoming your feedback. So if you see that there's anything in those tiles that, are problematic, you want to give us feedback. We don't want to do a full overload change, but if something was problematic, we have an opportunity to be able to get back to the developers and make a change before we roll it out to all municipalities.
Okay. All right, and last thing, we have the letter from Naugatuck. Are you just looking for comments on us, or this was just information for us? Okay.
We have a requirement to provide it to you, so we just wanted to give you an update. We did send it to the committee already. Bill did, and it's been issued on August the 12th.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right, so is there any, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, did we have something else under the other business that I'm missing? I feel like I am, but I can't remember.
The agenda only has the one.
I
Right.
don't.
We just listed other business. I wanted to make sure there was nothing else, though. Nope.
No, not at this point.
Okay.
No.
Perfect.
Okay.
There
Right.
was the other thing, but I think that's for the next meeting. The close.
Very good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, then I think a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved. It's Kim.
Do we have a second?
Second, Becky.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.